Hello and welcome to the webinar on end-of-year reporting. This webinar will point out several different reports that are available through MMS Generations that will help you in reporting information to your state, to sending districts, and for your district and for also your own personal information. Some of these reports will help you identify trends that are happening within your school population. So let's take a look. There are 5 different areas that we're going to be looking at. We're going to look at attendance reports, discipline, grade reporting, fee accounting, and then an area in the school menu with the NCLB, No Child Left Behind, management reports. So we'll take a look at those. So the first area we're going to start with is our daily attendance, and that is found on the attendance reporting jobs menu. We're going to go to more attendance reports, and then we are going to go to the attendance register report. We're going to look at 3 different reports in attendance that will help with this year-end reporting. There we go, as everything loads. If at any point in time you are not sure what a report can offer to you, or how to set it up, or the information that it's looking for you to enter in, I just want to very quickly point out our MMS help, which is the red question mark here in MMS Generations. And the wonderful thing about help is that it will load right to the report or the operation that you are currently in. So here, just very quickly, the purpose of the attendance register report presents an aggregate attendance data for any specific period within the school year. The report keeps 3 separate sets of totals for each student and for the school as a whole. It represents a monthly or period record for each student's attendance activity, plus numerous attendance summaries. All right, now for this report, very quickly, hopefully it will let me open this editor up at the same time. It is going to be using your daily attendance codes. Excellent, it opened up. And that short code that you see here, that is what is going to be displaying in the attendance register report. So if you don't have these 1 short letter codes for your daily attendance codes, MMS will actually prompt you as soon as you go into this attendance register report to let you know that you don't have, not all of your attendance codes have 1 letter codes associated with them. MMS is very good at reminding you on certain things that you need. So what we have here is a range of dates, and we have a detail area that we can set up. We can select a field to subtotal on. And what I would like to do is take a quick look at the report so that when we come back and review these options, they may make a little bit more sense. This report takes a fair amount of time to generate, so I am just going to limit it to my first group of students there. They're the ones that I pick on in my database that actually have attendance anyway. So I'm going to click OK, and with just leaving it with the default values, I am going to print just so that we have an idea of what the report looks like. So here we go. So it is a by student report, and this is my school year, and each line, detail line underneath my students' names here, it represents 1 month. So I can see here for August, I had August 4th through the 29th. And if I go across here, I can see that I do believe N is my non-member day. So where Amy did not start at the beginning of my school year. A stands for absent. T is my tardy. S, I'm thinking, is suspended or sick. I can't exactly remember what I put for my codes. But I can see the whole school year all in one very concise measurement, view rather. The E1, so I have my entry code, the date that she actually entered. So she did enter on August 5th. That's when she started school. So that is that non-member day. I can see here up at the top we have total days possible for that month was 19. Days present, Amy was present for 13 days. She was absent for 6 days in the month of August. Let me scroll over. She was not tardy. She was not dismissed, and she has one non-member day. Going across the rest of this top line here for Amy, I can see that we have her ID number. We have her year of graduation, her homeroom. We have register codes that may have been added to her. I think I need to scroll across a little bit more. Actually, it got truncated. And we have the calendar ID that is associated with her. And she is associated with calendar 001. So I'm having a printer setting issue here that last character was actually truncated. And then down below is Amy's sister Christine, and we see her information. And again, this is on a month-by-month basis. And I can see right at a glance how many, what attendance she had. So for my current, actually going back to Amy here, for my current line, it gives the date range. So today's the 13th, so this is what she currently stands at. Possible days in attendance is 198. Actual days present was 184, with a total of 14 absences, 1 tardy, and no dismissed, and 1 day of non-membership. Now this report will take it to the year-to-date, and it will use the full calendar range. So my school year ends on July 31st, and it gives a total days possible of 255. Currently, she stands at 241, and I do realize that we haven't finished our school year yet, but it's taking into account everything that she has for attendance so far. And the totals for absent, tardy, dismiss, and non-member are the same. So let's take a quick look at the setup for this. So I'm going to close this view. So the first area here is for the detail area that we saw underneath the student's name. So we have the ability to put a date range in there. So if you're interested in gathering statistics for the first half of the year or the first quarter, you can set that range right there. Then we have the current period totals. So again, it starts at the beginning of the year and then it stops on today's date. And then we have the ability to set a third set of date range for our starting and ending date for the year-to-date totals. In the detail area, we can format it so it's 1 month per line. That is what the default is, and that's the one that I actually prefer. That way I can look and I know what August is going to be. I know what the totals for September are going to be. We can change that to 4 weeks per line or 5 weeks per line. We have the ability to print this report for students with specific register codes. So if you have a register code set up for students who are coming from, are being sent from a specific school district, and you need to give that sending district a summary total for their students in attendance, you can select that register code. I think I have some register codes for, from different sending districts. You can select more than one register code, and you have the option of including only students who have all of the selected codes, or including students who have any of the selected codes. You can select a field to subtotal in or on. One that comes to mind is that you could generate this report by year of graduation. So the students will be grouped together on that. You could do it by homeroom. Basically on any of the biographical information. And that is it for the attendance register report. The next report we're going to look at is the statistical matrix report. That is, again, reporting on daily attendance. So we're going to click on our daily button. We're going to go to More Attendance Reports, and we are going to look at the Attendance Statistical Matrix Report, just one down from the report we were just looking at. Here we have the option of selecting all or just one of our calendars. If you have more than one calendar in your school year, you can run it by calendar, or we give the option of selecting all. We have the starting and ending date range available to you. This one stops on my on the current date, but I could change that. And obviously, where we're talking about end of year reporting, you would want to change that to your last day of school. And with any of our reports, we give you the option of entering in your own user-defined report title. We have the same option that we saw in the previous report to limit this report on students with a specific register code. And we have the same options here to include only students who have all of the selected register codes, or to include students who have any of the selected codes. I am not going to use this option, but if I wanted to, I can do a shift click and select a group of them, or as I click individually and I hold down my control key, I can select multiple codes that way. And I shouldn't have clicked on that, because now I have a, there we go. We'll just leave that option there. All right, so I am going to limit my range on this report also, just to be mindful of our time, and let's click print. Let me exit out of here and just reset that. There we go. I don't want to click in that area. I am going to change this to my last day of school in my calendar. Click OK, and change my student range. Click OK and print. And there we go. Put that right there. So this is going to be a month by month. We don't have any student detailed information. We do have a breakdown of males and females. So the top line is our male student, second is our female, and then we total it for you. We have different buckets of attendance information. The first is excused absences, unexcused, total absences, tardy dismissed, non-member. Now, I didn't really explain what non-member was. Non-member would be a student who was not enrolled in your school during a specific period of time. Say you had a student who started with you at the beginning of the year, they left, went to another school for a period of time, and then came back, so they re-entered your school. That break in time where they were not a member would be considered being non-member, because MMS will see an entry date, an exit date, and then another entry date. So that time in between, MMS interprets that as being a non-member. If you have a student that transfers in after the beginning of the school year, from the first day of school till the day before they became a member of your school, those dates would be non-member dates. So we can see here on the next area, we have the calendar IDs that were pulled in for this report. We see what the number of sessions were for each calendar for the month of August. The number of days in session, 20. And then the average daily attendance. So of the 20 days that we had, my average daily attendance was 12.62. The average daily membership was 12.95, and then we have a 97.4% attendance. And we get this breakdown for each month. And here we have our grand totals, so this is our year end. So we had a total, we have total present, we have total unexcused absences, this is excused, this is unexcused. And then we have it total together. We have tardy, dismissed, and non-member days, and total present, total possible. And then we have the breakdown per calendar, and the number of days in the session, and the average daily attendance, the average daily membership, and then what our percentage is. Now we see here the current enrollment and cumulative enrollment. Remember, I don't have my full student population selected. These are just the 13. So of these 13 students, that's this information here. And I think I've covered everything on that one. All right, so we have one more attendance report that we're going to look at. And the next one is the entry withdrawal reports. That is found under attendance, reporting jobs, more attendance reports, and it is my entry withdrawal report. We have three options for running this report, and we are actually going to start with our tally, and it's just going to give us tallies. We're not going to see any student detail information. We have our starting and ending date that we want to see, and again, I am going to go to my last day of school to run this report. My user-defined title. This one I'm going to leave my full student range, and I'm going to print. So the setup is very simple for this. And so for each entry, re-entry, and then my withdrawal codes start with a W, I have a total of 499 students that have the E1 entry code. I have 258 females and 241 males. And that's pretty much it. I have one student that has the E3 and the R1, and that's just my sample database. Not a lot of variety in that database, but it gives you the different codes and just a tally as to how many fall into each category. If I do a dump of the EWR records, I have the option of selecting a field to start a new page on, and year graduation would be a likely choice. And again, I'm going to leave my full student range selected. And so he's my one student that doesn't have a year of graduation. That one, I couldn't figure out why there was only one student there. Okay, because I am doing it by year of graduation. So this is my year of graduation 2015. So here are all of my students, and it's just going to display for each student their entry code, the date they entered. If they withdrew, you would see that information also. Their register code or codes, and the calendar ID that they are associated with. I'm trying to see if I have any students with a withdrawal code. You would think I thought for sure I had one of my first students. If I wonder if I took this off and ran it again. There we go. So this student actually has some additional register codes. Here we go. Here we have a withdrawal. I thought I had an example. So this is a student that actually started with us at the beginning of the year, withdrew, and then returned. And the last one we have is a list by code. And again, we have the ability to start a new page on break on year of graduation, and we list the code that we want to report on. So this is my entry code that the majority of my students have. So let's print it off, and it'll give you a list of students with that code and the entry date that they had, as well as with their student number. Excellent. The last thing I want to take a look at in attendance actually has to deal with grade reporting, and it is the operation to move attendance into our grade reporting. A lot of questions that we get with report cards and likewise with transcripts is that, I'm running my report cards, my transcripts, and my attendance information is showing up as zeros. That's because you actually need to run an operation that will take those attendance codes that we're assigning to the students and sum them and put them so that it is easy for the report cards or the transcripts to grab that information. So that operation is found under my attendance reporting jobs, operations, and transfer attendance summary totals. Now for year end, I would select the term to summarize for, and that would be my my year, my YR. I can see here I have semester 1, semester 2, and then my quarters, and I have some rotation terms that I'm currently not using, but they're still in my term table. And then I have trimesters there. But I want to do my year end, so I select the term YR. I am going to select my last day of school, and I'm going to keep my date range complete, and I'm going to process. Okay. And so when we do these transfer totals, I'm actually going to pull up my code table again, and we're going to look at our daily attendance codes. And you can see here that we have designation here. We have unexcused, so we can, I can see here my half-day illegal is an unexcused absence. Where's my tardy? My tardy excused, tardy unexcused is being flagged as tardy. So those have the tardy checkbox selected, and then I have dismissed, and those checkboxes are checked under the dismissed column. So when we are doing these summations, this is what MMS is looking at. It's going to pull all of these attendance codes that are indicated as being tardy to total those, that total tardy for the year. Likewise with the dismissed. Absent is a little bit different. We have unexcused absences, and those are indicated with the checkbox, but anything that has greater than 0% would be considered absent. So that's a judgment call on tardy and dismissed. But if it has greater than 0%, it will be considered an absent. And if it is, for example, my first code here, absent, it's 100, it's 1, so it's 100% absent. They weren't gone for the complete day, but this is not checked, so I know that this is an excused absent code. All right. So now we're going to move on to our discipline reports. There are 2 reports that I want to take a look at. The first one is the Discipline Statistical Summary Report, and that is found under Discipline Reporting Jobs, More Discipline Reports, and it is right here with the Discipline Statistical Summary Report. Now, this one will not give student-specific information. It's just going to help you identify trends, because we have several different options for this report. I have some settings saved, so I'm going to select that. And very quickly, we're going to take a look at this report so that when we go through the different options, hopefully they make a little bit more sense to you. So I'm going to print. Oh, I have to include at least one infraction. We're going to select a range here. There we go. And we're going to print. So here are all of the codes that I selected. These are my infractions. So these are the things that the student did to get themselves into trouble. And we have a breakdown by month. So August through May. June and July are on a separate page, or did I? Oh. I stopped in May. I didn't select the end of year. All right, so. And we can see that for each infraction, for example, fighting, which is an infraction code of 016, We had one incident in August, one in September, and that was it for a grand total. So this just gives you a quick look at what you have for infractions and how many you had for the year and in what months that they occurred. We have a similar report for actions. So by clicking on actions, I now have all of my actions. So actions are what infractions are what the students did to get them in trouble. Actions is the punishment or what happened because of what they did wrong, whether they got detention or suspended or the police were called, whichever. So I'm going to select a handful of actions and we're going to take a quick look at that. Let's change my date range to actually the year end. And I just made the font smaller on myself. Again, it's a one-page report, and we can, well, depending on the number of actions that you may have selected, but I can see August through July, and the actions are right here, and we can see grand totals. Very helpful information. And then the last option here is our incidents. So an incident is an event that occurs at your school that involves multiple students with possible multiple infractions. So if you had 10 students who got into a fight, you could create an incident for that specific day and then associate all the students and whether they were fighting or whether they were bullying, whatever their involvement was. It doesn't have to be the same infraction. It's just that they were included in part of that incident. I'm going to go back to my infractions example here, and we have the option of ordering the report by either the code or by the description. And you'll see here some letters in this last column. And when you are creating your infraction or action codes, you can associate them with different categories. For infractions, we have D for drugs and alcohol, V for violence, W for weapons, and B for bullying. If I were to click on actions, we have those same groupings available, or we have groupings available, but they are different. Here, I stands for in-school suspension, O for out-of-school suspension, R for removal, and E for expulsion. So we can, what we have been viewing so far is totals by month. We can do totals by year of graduation. Let's go back to my infractions. So per year of graduation, it doesn't give you detail for, oh, it does. We have the late for class, so there's our infraction, and we can see the breakdown by year of graduation and so forth. It does not give us an overall total. It just specifically limits it to the infraction and year of graduation. Next, we can have totals by gender. So we have the infraction late for class, and we can see a total male, total female. So the first line would be the grand total and then the breakdown. And the last option is to include infraction type summary. So very simple. There's the infraction late for class, and we had a total all year of just one occurrence of that infraction, or whichever your date range is. And the keys down here for the different flags are listed at the bottom of the report. What I don't recommend doing, which gets very confusing very quickly, is to select all of these options. I think it's worthwhile to run the report several times. We didn't talk about our output options. What we have been viewing so far is preview to screen. You can print it out to a text file. You can create a PDF copy or an Excel file. And rather than generating a lot of paper reports, you can generate the reports and then archive them to use as a reference. And I think I covered all of the options here for this one. Oh, we were going to take a look at what those all look like, all checked. Very confusing. Would not recommend it, but it's kind of fun to look at. Oh, I have it set as an XLS. Oh, I changed my output option on myself. There we go. And there we go. Lots of fun because we have it by month. We see total male, total female, the breakdown by year of grad. It's, I think the report is easier to digest if you run it multiple times, showing just, breakdown between male and female, breakdown by month, breakdown by year of graduation. All of them combined necessarily isn't the best way to view this report. But we give you the option of choosing whichever options works best for you. All right, the next discipline we're going to look at is the Discipline Historical Summary Report, and that is under Discipline, More Discipline Reports, and it is the Discipline Historical Summary Report, which is right below the one we just viewed. Not a lot of setup on this report, but this will actually give you a, so for your graduating seniors, you can print the their 4 years that they were with you in your school, or 3, whichever school you are. You can start with the year of graduation, the school year that you want to start with. And we have the option of starting a new page for each student. We can include yearly totals, grand totals, and print-only totals. Let's start with our totals, print-only totals. And we're going to keep my student range full, and we are going to go to a new page for each student. This is a fairly quick report to run. And then again, I don't have a lot of discipline data in my database. So what we're seeing is it's running through each school year. So it did one school year, now I'm on my second. And we have a total of 4 school years that it's going to run through. So we can see here Amy is my first student, and she only has 2 years worth of discipline data, but we can see the range here from school year 11-12 through 14-15. And we have the totals, and we have the infraction totals and her action totals. So we have the total number of infractions, total number of actions, and we have those flags that we had set or that we had seen for infractions with the drugs and alcohol, violence, weapons, and bullying. And then we have the action, which is in-school suspension, out-of-school removal, and expulsions. And then we have a total number of units, and we see that we still have one action that is still open. And that is the totals for 13-14. And if I scroll down, we can see the same information for the 14-15 totals. And if I go to the next page, it's going to be a new student. And there's her sister, Christine. Oh, here we have one student who has 11-12 data. There's 12-13. And that was it. So if we were to, and then we can include grand totals. Print, just to see what that option looks like. And here we go. We're going to have to scroll through this one side to side. So we can see here Amy. The heading shows the school years that we're selecting here. So for 13-14 school year, we can see the date of the infraction, the description, the teacher that reported it, the flag, whether it is involving drugs and alcohol, weapons, violence, the action start date, action end date, and a description as to what the student received. And it's broken down by school year. And this is the flag for the action. So whether it's an out-of-school suspension, in-school suspension, removal, expulsion. The units can be set in the action code. So if you want to track, for example, the number of hours of detention that a student receives, for the action codes relating to detention, you can put a unit assigned with that. So you can assign 2 hours of detention would be, have a unit of 2, or you can set detention to be a 1-unit block, and then when you assign the actions, you could assign, 2 codes of that. That wouldn't really make sense. You would want a 2-hour code, a 3-hour block. So have different codes depending on the length of hours. And then we can see here the status of whether it's opened or closed. My last one for Amy here doesn't have an action associated with it. She just had the discipline action added, the infraction added, but no other data was recorded on that. And then we have our grand totals for her. So this would be if she would had 4 years of data, she would have a grand totals for all 4 years. And there's the rest of her grand totals. And then we move to a new student. And you can set your student range, but by generating this for only your seniors and have the appropriate starting school year for that and so forth. The next thing we're going to look at is our grade reporting reports that we would want to generate when we come to the end of our year. So we are going to go under grades, and the first one we're going to look at is how to set up and run transcript labels. And all of these are going to be found under more grades reports, and we're going to look at our transcript labels. And they are just that, they are a label. You can set which size labels you want to use, and you can pull in any information that you can normally pull in for our permanent transcripts. You're just limited to the size of the label that you're working with. So we do have some default label sizes, but you can set up a user-defined size. You can order the course information by course name or by course code. You can determine how small a font you want to use, and depending on the font size will determine how many lines you're going to get per inch and the number of characters that you're going to get per inch. To save us some time, I'm hoping that I don't have anything set up. So we're going to look at our course information. So this just will let us know which terms we want to include on the label. Since this is a year end, I'm going to keep everything selected. And we can select our courses by ordering by course code or by course name. And then this will just select the courses that we want to exclude from the label. So if you have lunch or study halls set as a subject, a course that a student has for scheduling reasons, you would want to disclude those. I think I do have a lunch here in my database. There we go. So these I would not want to include. Or my test one. To select multiple, I was just holding down my control key. We do have some options here for student course considerations to suppress labels for students with no grades or comments in the selected fields, to print courses with no grades or credits, and to also include any transfer courses. So I have my header data, so the information that I want to include, and I think I'm just going to keep this very simple with student name. It will let you know the number of characters that you have remaining and the number of characters that you want to set between fields. So with entering in my student name, I still have 16 characters that I can add. So why don't I add my student ID number here? Oh, and that's gonna, I can't add it. I'm over by 1. Unless I go that way. And I just increased my horizontal pitch. So if I come back here with my header data, I now have more than enough fields to do the student name and ID number. So the grade data, I want my course name to be mulled over. Course code, I'm not working with a lot of information here, so I'm not going to put the course code there. And I want to focus, this is going to be my year end, so I'm going to do what the final average is and also the credit. And then I do have some summary data that I can put in here. And here I have my absent, tardy, and dismissed. And these I know are there because we looked at that operation before we moved over. We can also pull in previous credits, current year credits, um, GPA information, class rank, and we can also determine the number of characters between fields. So right now we have character remaining of 40, and I think that's good. So I'm actually going to save my settings this time. We're going to add a new record, and this is going to be year-end label. We're going to click OK, and with that record selected, we're going to say select item, and now my settings have been saved. And let's do we're going to do a student range. OK, and it's going to be going off of this default label, and we're going to print. Now what some schools do, oh, this is my test. And now I can see Amy. So I didn't think I had selected the test one. It could be that it's automatically going to do that one test one. Anyway, print. What a lot of schools do is they print off on cardstock a vessel that will hold all of these labels that they print off each year. So rather than reprinting out students' transcripts each year, they print out on cardstock, and then they'll do a label for the end of the year. So I can see here Amy, she doesn't have a whole lot of courses, but we can see that she has 3 courses, what her final average is, and what the credits assigned are. And then we can see her absent, tardy, and dismissed totals. It's weird that I'm not getting a whole lot of course information. I'm not quite sure why. I should have had more data than that. Well, that gives you an idea of what the transcript labels are. Now we're going to go into our permanent transcripts. Again, we're going through grades. We're going to go to more grades reports and permanent transcripts. We do have 3 different forms that you can select. We have the laser form, and if I just click on setup, you can see that you have these different areas that you can set up to print information. So the class record is any historical information. Current class record would be if you were to do a transcript midway through the school year. You can include their previous years set up in the class record, but the current class record is you could include quarter 1, quarter 2, and semester 1 averages for those early college submission applications that you may be turning in for students. So you can set different criteria for the 2 different areas. The next is our pre-printed form, which is a little bit different layout. And then we have, well, the pre-printed form people don't generally use anymore. The next one, the one that I wanted to show you, is the continuous laser form. And we're just going to continue. Because I am changing the layout, If I hit Start New, my save settings will go away and I'll set up the report fresh. If I say Continue, it's going to keep what settings it can and then empty everything else out. So this is a slightly different layout. I can see we still have the student information, the school information, prior class record, current class record, and then we just have a large additional information area. So let's take a quick look at these different areas. So for student information, we have the ability to enter in whatever text we want, colon. We can adjust how many spaces after the text we want to include. And then we click Add Text, and I can see here that the text has been added. And we can also add biographical information. We have two filtered fields that you can pull in that combines the student's first name, last name, and middle initial. We have first name first and then last name first. And that is all we have. For those of you who are familiar with Precision Report Writer, we have additional combined fields of the student's address that will pull in the street address and the street number, as well as a combined city, state, and zip. Those options are not available through here. You have to select them individually, and there is currently no way to truncate the spaces that are attached to a field. So I'm going to add the student first name, and you would set that up, and it's very nice. It shows you how many characters you've used and how many characters remain. If you need to, you can clear a line. You can't do just part of a line. You have to clear the whole thing and then start over. Click OK, and we have our school information. Now, some of this information is being pulled from either the license or the configuration area underneath the admin menu. And you have additional lines where you can enter in information. And this is just purely just typing in and setting the line that you want to type in. For prior class records, this is the historical data. You can select which grade fields you want to pull in. You can actually pull in blank grade fields if you want. So I'm going to do my final grade and credit. Click OK. You can change the headings here where I only have my credit and my final average. I can remove those. I'm just clicking in the area and then using my backspace or delete keys. Credit will always go in this last column, but I'm going to change this to FAV for final average. I can say which column I want to start. I need to select a grade field first. You can select just the school year. It is optional to put the grade level and the school year heading. And we're going to add our line and then just very quickly add a line. And let's go 13, 14. We're going to add a line. And we are going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So we're going to start our grade fields in column 6. And now let's go to our current class record. For a year end, you would leave this area blank and put all of your information in the prior class record. We can select different grade fields. Move. We're going to add a blank, and we're going to put it so that my final grade is going to be in the same position as final grade for my prior school years. And I'm going to, again, for this one, I'm not going to put a grade level or a school year heading. I'm just going to add my 14-15. Click OK, and then we have our additional information, and we have a total of 48 lines that we can pull information. We can add our own text. We can indicate the number of spaces after our last character, add, and we want to go from line to line. And for each line, it's going to show you the number of characters used and the number of characters still available to you. Like before, you can't delete a partial line. You have only the option of clearing the line, but you have 4 different areas where you can put information or how you can place information. The first we've already talked about is just entering in your own text. The second is any biographical field you may want to put on here. I know in my sample database, I have fields that, oh, I think I passed them. They're student activity fields. And let's see. So let's do a couple of those. I'm going to add that. And we're going to do activity 2, and we're going to add that field. The second area is any grade related items. The first option is GPA. We can do credits, class rank, honor roll, and here we have attendance. Now this attendance does not need to be calculated in the current year. It's actually going to go to school year 10-11 and pull your tardy information. In that specific school year, you do need to go to that operation that we saw earlier that will total those amounts for you and allow you to be able to pull them in here. And I think that finishes that. So you would just select the information. Let's do my 14-15. So we're going to add, let's go down a line. So we're going to add our absence, and we select the term that we want to pull it from, and we can select the length. And we're going to add that data, and we're going to actually add a couple of spaces. So we're going to add that, and now we're going to go to our tardy, and we still want our term to be year. We're going to add that, and we're going to add 2 more spaces, and now we're going to do our dismissed. Term is year, and then we're going to add. And you can do your headings. And then the last area is our assessment data. So if you have the assessment module, you can pull in different test scores. So here I have my ACTs. Let's go down to my SATs. So here I have my SAT for critical reading. I can select what field to display. So there's just my test label. I could do my raw score, scaled score is what I'm going to do. We have our options here. We can select the date range that we want to pull the scores from. We can report on only the most recent score, the highest score, or the lowest score. And we can set a length, and we can add that field onto a different line. There we go. And we can also see our show our test selections. So these are the different tests that we have, and which scores that we're going to be pulling in. And we are going to click OK, and we're going to set our student range to 1 student, and we'll see what that looks like. So we can see here for our previous school years, we just have the final average and the credit. And then one thing we didn't change on the current year is we did not put, we didn't change the headings here. We should have changed that to, quarter 1, quarter 2, quarter 3, quarter 4. We had nothing in the 5th column, and then we had our final average. Now, the laser form has the same setup, except it has these 4 separate areas, and they do have this academic standing, and then, but the setup, the choices that you have are the same that we saw on the continuous form. The next thing we're going to look at is our grade distribution reports. And this is grade distribution report by course report. We actually have 3. We have by teacher, by department, and by course. So let's take a quick look at the teacher grade distribution report. Now this report will be able to tell you, give you an idea of what type of grades a teacher gives. I'm sure you've heard the complaints that, Mr. Jones always flunks everybody. It's next to impossible to get an A in his class. Or you want Miss Smith because she's really easy. Everybody gets an A. You can, by looking at this report, you can identify, whether a teacher does gravitate one way or the other, that, they seem to, given their student population and their courses, that they, oh wow, the kids were right. They, everybody is getting an A in the class, or, very few B's and C's. So let's take a look at how we can do this. We can set it by just term, or by selecting, keeping all of this selected, we will see the grade plans for all of the classes to be pulled in. We can select a grade point value group to use. If you use more than one grade point value group, you can select the appropriate one here. We can select the grade field for the report, and we're going to do our final average. We can base the distribution on individual grades or the grade class. I prefer the grade class, and we'll see an example of what that looks like, and I'll also run it for the individual grades. Do we want to include blank grades in this distribution? That is up to you. It will show you that any students that, for our example here with final average, that they would not, that they don't have any grade whatsoever. And then you can order by teacher name or by number, and I'm going to do name. We have a teacher range, so we can run this report for just a specific teacher or for all your teachers. And then you can include transfer courses if you want. So I'm going to print. I think this is a fairly quick report, and I am right. So, oh, this is what we have for blank. So for the teacher, our mean, we can see here that for blank, she has 100% of her 24 students. So she wasn't a very good example here. I just took off the blank here. All right, so here's our grade class. I should have more data than this. I don't have a lot of final averages, that's why. All right, so I know I have a lot of quarter 3 data. For a year-end report, you would do final average. That's why I wasn't getting any grades. Ah, I hate it when I do that to myself. All right, so we're going to put blank grades back in there. So, and I'm going to pick on a teacher that I know has a lot of data, and that would be for Steve here. There we go, a little bit better. So for all of his courses that he teaches that meets during quarter 3, he has given only 1A, 22 Bs, 1 C, and 1 withdrawn passing, and 73 blank grades. So by doing the classes, you get a kind of be able to identify a trend as to how they are assigning the grades. If I close here and I do individual grade instead, let's eliminate. Okay, so let's print the same report for Steve. So these are all the grades that he assigns, and I can see here that we have 19 grades within 85. It's not as it doesn't give as clear a picture, I don't think. I think it's okay to lump in by class just to get a better feel for how they are assigning the grades. All right, so let's take a look at this same report by department. So we're going to go to grades, more grade reports, and departmental grade distribution report. And we're going to see a lot of the same information. This is how we're going to select the courses. We're going to select a term to base this on. This would be for year end, it would be our final average. We can do the grade class or the individual grades. And then we have the option of including blank grades. We have our grade point value group that we want to include to base the grades on, and then whether we want to pull in transfer courses or not. And rather than, we do have a student range, but we can also do a department range. Now you need to have department codes to do this. Let's pick on math. Let's do our math courses. Okay, and print. And so here we see again our grade classes and the amount of grades received. by department. I need to work on my grade reporting data here. Kind of sketchy. All right. So let's take a quick look at the by course. Setup is the same. We have the courses from which, the grade plans from which to pull the courses. We have our grade point value group. We select the term to base our reports on. We can do the grade class or the individual grades, whether we want to include blank grades. We can order by the teachers by name or number. I prefer name. We can print by course or by course and section. And we can order by teacher or we can order by course. And then again, whether we want to include transfer courses. We have a teacher range. I'm going to leave that full. I'll probably regret that. And then we have our student range that we can do this for. And let's print. So for Miss Armin, we can see here she has one course and it's communication studies and health. She has two. And we have no grades. Both of them have blank. Oh, that teacher actually had, oh, they're all blank. I need to start entering in some data here. So let's leave here. Let's go and deselect and do that same teacher that I had before, Steve Hobble. Okay, and now let's print again. So we see here the grade class, and then we see the different courses that he teaches for. And so geometry has the biggest spread. Everything else has just blank grades. But it gives you the percentage of where the grades fall and then the actual number. Just a tool to help you identify any trends. The next is we're going to talk very quickly about our how you set up graduation requirements. Now, graduation requirements needs to be set up for each school year. We're going to go under grade reporting jobs. This is going to be more grades editing jobs, and then we are going to edit our graduation requirements. We give you the ability to copy from one year to another. So we can see here it's year graduations. Let's keep it simple and just look at 2015. So for my year grads 2015, these are their requirements. So we have grade 9, 10, 11, and 12. We can see the different departments. For graduation requirements, you do need to be utilizing departments. So for each department in the course catalog, you would have to have each course associated with a department. This is the year of graduation, and then we have the 4 years of our high school, and we can determine, for example, English, that a student needs to have 1 credit earned in each 4 years of an English course. And then we have social studies, language. These are all of my departments. What some schools do, where they have English electives, they will have 2 departments. They'll have an English department 01, and then they'll have an English department that indicates that this is English electives, so that they fulfill their English requirements for graduation with non-electives. So they have to put the electives in a different department. It can get a little tricky that way. These do pull forward from year to year. So if I were to go back to 2014, which would have been my last year's seniors, and display only them, obviously I have no students here that really apply to that. And for my 15-16 school year, I will create a new set of requirements for that year of graduation. And you can select this year's seniors, and I would do this in my 15-16 school year, and I can copy them to my 15-16. So these would be, actually no, I would want to copy from my freshman to my current freshman to my incoming freshman. Generally, there's not a lot of change from year to year, but by having a specific graduation requirements per year of graduation, you can grandfather in certain items. So, you know, your seniors this year, their graduation requirements may be different than what the freshmen are because the state or the district has decided to change the requirements. So those changes will affect your incoming freshmen, but not the students who are already enrolled as upperclassmen. I said this is a quick view at this, so let me exit out of here, and then we can go to our graduation requirements report. So under grade reporting, more grades reports, the graduation requirements report. Do I have any save settings here? I do. So I'm going to recall that. And so I'm going to pick a couple of seniors. I'm going to run this report. Really need to add a year of graduation for Mr. Smith. And not very good save settings here. We can select up to 4. I'm going to do my mid-year average, my second semester average, and my final average. And we are going to print. So this is going to be running this report just for my seniors. Okay, let's print. So I have an invalid department. I'm going to choose to ignore that. Oh, so course, this is a transfer course. So for Amy, I can see all of her English requirements that she's done. I can see the school year that they came from. We can see the course code. We can see any grades that she has received, whether credit was earned, and then credit enrolled. So that would be the credit attempted as opposed to the credit earned. So she actually ended up earning more credits than what she was enrolled in. So we can see it by department as to where she stands. And we can scroll through. It's by student. And there is a total credits earned after we see, we get a total by department, and then there is a grand total. And I do realize that we're running a little bit long and we haven't taken a look at the No Child Left Behind. Just very quickly, to get a snapshot of the school year, report cards is another report that you can run. And it's right there in that main menu. And obviously I'm not going to go into setting up the whole report card, but you can see a lot more information. You have more grade fields. You can do the teacher comments, different items that you can't necessarily pull up on a transcript. Sometimes it's very nice having that paper copy or at least an electronic copy of the report cards. And now we're going to move on to the fee reports. And there are four reports that we're going to look for in fee accounting. Not sure if you use the fee module at all, but the first one we're going to look at is the transaction register. Run the statements, invoices. Actually, no, we're going to go to reports, and it is going to be this account summaries totals report. No, statements, invoices. Where am I? So we can run this report for debits and credits. Credits only or debits only for a year-end summary. I'm going to keep it for both my debits and credits. We would want to set the year range for the entire school year as part of our year-end summary. So we're going to start with August 4th, and we are going to end with July 31st, which is my last day of school. We can select a statement message if we choose. We can group family members for this report. We can choose to print the transaction comments, print closed transactions on the report. We're going to do that, and then print transactions for all school years. We're going to keep this as a year-end summary. We are going to do our heading setup. We have different fields, biographical fields that we can pull in. We can choose which debit and credit codes to include in the report. And then we have the statement criteria. We are going to, with no balance limits. So regardless of what the amounts are, we're going to print that out. I'm going to set my student range to one of my first few students. Click OK and print. So this is going to give me a snapshot of all the activity for my students. Amy and Christine are siblings, so they are going to print on the same report. I had, in my general setup, I had to group family members together. And it indicates whether it's a debit or credit. But this gives the whole activity for the year, whether there's a balance due still remaining at the end of the year. And that's just an overflow. And then I have my next student. Next thing we're going to look at is the account summary totals report. And that option is right at the top. The first one was the print transaction register. I kind of clicked on that one quickly. I tend to do that. Again, we have our date range that we can set, and we would want to set it to the full school year. I'm not going to bother changing that. Again, we have the options of printing, grouping family members, whether we want to include closed transactions, I do, and then whether we want to start a new page for each student. And I'm going to have that yes. The header setup is whether we want to include parent name, address, or phone numbers. If any of these is set to yes, we need to select which contact we want to pull that information from. I'm going to select contact 1, which is my primary parent. We can pull 3 additional biographical fields and labels, and you can use the labels without using a biographical field associated with it. We choose which fee code that we want to include in the report, and I have all of mine selected. And then the report details set up. Do we want to include print the balance forward for each student? Do we want to itemize the debit credit information? Do we want to print debit credit totals by each student? Print account balances for each student and or family group? And then do we want to print grand totals? And then we can set the debit credit criteria for including the students on this report. And right now it's set to no. So you can say for those students who are between this range, we want to print out their report. Again, I'm just going to run this quickly for just a few students, and we're going to print. So this is for Amy. And we can see all of her information and her we have a balance forward of $5 from the school year, and then we have all of her debits and credits, and then we have a total for the year end. And she does have a balance due. And then this is her sister Christine. Now she printed on a separate page. Sometimes we, when we have the group family members, they will be on the same report. Sometimes if they are in the same family group, they will not be on the same, but if alphabetically or however you have your student order set by in your filter, they wouldn't normally be, back to back. And in this case, they are back to back. They would have been anyway, just the way my database was set up. But so that is that report. Then we have the aging report. And this, you can determine the date that you want to base the report on, and then whether they have any balances either over 90 days, over 60, over 30, within 60 to 90, within 31 to 60, or less than 30 days. This is a fairly quick report. And then we will move on to our No Child Left Behind. And they're all very similar, so even though there's a lot of them there, it won't take long. So we see here for Amy that she has a balance of over $2,000 and it is over 90 days due. So depending on when the charges were added, you will see the different amounts. All right, so let's take a look at the No Child Left Behind. And these reports are all very similar. So we're going to look at the school enrollment report by group. And that's what these all are. They're pulling, so this one is for school enrollment, and we can report the enrollment as of a specific day. So this would be set to your last day of school. We have the option of including students who have withdrawn prior to the report date. Another reason for not deleting those students who leave your school and just setting them inactive, but this would pull in those inactive students. We can map our ethnic codes. I'm actually going to do a recall setting because it's kind of time consuming to set these all up, but this will give you a view. So these are my ethnic groups, and then we have the race ethnic code that is associated with those. And then our subgroups. So we have 4 different subgroups that these reports can be based on, and we have the economically disadvantaged. So these are actually default MMS values, but if you are doing state reporting, you can pull the value that your state EDR uses rather than the MMS one. And so we have English language learner, migrant, and then special education. And let's see what I have for data on this. My data is not complete. So again, this is not going to give student-specific information. It's just going to give a breakdown. So it's broken down by male, female within a specific year of graduation. We have totals here. This is my all students. And then we have the breakdown by race. And we have the 4 different subgroups. I'm going to have to fix my printer here because my I'm losing my left margin here, right margin. And we have the ADM ADA report, and that is on the average daily membership and average daily attendance. So the setup is the same. We have our date range. We have our ethnic codes that we can map. We have the same for subgroups. And then we have the grade level and homerooms that we can base a report on. Recall settings. So I'm going to do all 4 grade levels in my school, and there's a couple of homerooms that I am omitting. And print, it's going to look very similar to the first report we looked at. These students don't have a, they're missing data. It's okay. I know I don't have complete data. And then we have the total number of students broken down by male, female. And then we have the ADA, the ADM, and then the percent attendance. And so we had it by the race, we had the different subgroups, and then we had the grade levels, and then we can have it broken. And now we're going to see the different homerooms. And the next one is the dropout report. And the setup is very similar to what we've seen. We're going to have the date to base the report on. We're going to have our ethnic codes, our subgroups, and then we have to indicate our withdrawal dropout codes. So those would have to be entered in, and then the report generated. I don't know if I have any dropouts in my course, in my database. So let's generate this. Oh, I do. Not a whole lot. So it would give the different year grads, and then we have a total, and we can see the breakdown by race, and then the subgroups. I told you the No Child Left Behind would go quickly. So we have the assessment score summary report. So this one you would need the assessment module. The setup is going to be very similar. We have our year of graduation, we have our ethnic codes, our subcodes, and our test information. So we would select the tests that we want to pull from. And actually it's not pulling from the assessment scores, it's pulling from a biographical field. And we can enter in a description, whether we want to print a group evaluation. And then the last report we're going to look at is, oh, we have two more. We have the calendar analysis report. And we are going to set our ending date to our last day of school. We can include criteria to include on the report. We can break it down by year of graduation and by gender or by ethnic code. This is one where it might be advisable to maybe not do all options at once. Let's just pick my my seniors. So we select the same four subgroups here. Let's see, I should have a recall setting. Okay. And print. And here's our report. So for each day, we can see the number of students enrolled. So the total number of sessions, so that is the number of students multiplied by the sessions for that specific date. The number of excused absences, unexcused, total absences, and then the percent attendance. And it does give a grand total. for the percent attendance for the entire school year. And the last report is under the No Child Left Behind. And it's the Highly Qualified Teacher Summary Report. You can indicate whether a teacher is highly qualified in the staff editor. You can include the certification and degree information, which is entered in the staff editor, and you can order the report by teacher name or by teacher ID. We can set our teacher range. So here is our teacher Armin that we've seen before. We have flagged them as being highly qualified, and there's their degree information, which we don't have entered in. We have the certification date and the certificate number. So we can do this report for only highly qualified, and we can opt not to include the certification and degree information. Let's run that report again. And so this is limited to just our highly qualified, and it gives the date of hire and whether they're male or female. And that is all. I hope you found this information useful and find it saving you a lot of time for generating those year-end reports and tally reports that you need to report on. Thank you.